am going to be blunt. 8 out of 10 sprinters are absolutely training wrong. How do I know this? Because I was one of them. I used to do everything random internet coaches said, from running endless sprints till I dropped, yet I wasn't getting faster past 10:7. The proof is in the results, and I plateaued and even got injured training that way. And I see it every season. Athletes who work their tails off but don't see their time drop like they expect. And it's not from a lack of effort, it's because common training mistakes. And in this video, I will explain the 5 biggest mistakes holding you back from reaching your true sprint potential. And more importantly, for each mistake, I will give you clear, evidence-based backed solutions drawn from elite training principles. We're going to bust these myths and bad habits one by one, from overconditioning to poor recovery techniques. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to train smarter, avoid pitfalls that keep many athletes slow and frustrated. And even fixing one of these mistakes could be the key to unlocking your next personal best. So stick around for all 5 and you will have the blueprint to maximize your speed and get closer to that sprinting dream. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1, treating speed work as conditioning. All right, everyone. We got 10 by 200s with 1 minute rest. Let's go. That's my bad coach's voice. If you heard something like that at practice, you might be in a program that mixes up speed training with conditioning. And that is the very first big mistake, is over conditioning. Doing too much volume with too little rest when you're supposed to be training speed. Now, hear me out. Many high school runners sprint and run every rep all out with barely any recovery until you are absolutely exhausted. Yes, you end up tired, but you're actually not getting faster that way. In fact, you're training yourself to run slow while tired. So why is this wrong? Sprinting fast is a neuromuscular activity. Your brain and muscles need quality reps to improve your top speed. If you turn a speed workout into a marathon, your form falls apart and you never practice true max velocity. As one coach I know puts it, running lines while gasping for air is not going to make you any faster. And research backs this up. Short sprint effort, like a 40-yard dash, need 3 to 5 minutes rest to maintain peak power. Sprinting needs to have peak power. And without enough rest, your power output drops. You're just grinding. So here's the fix. You need to train speed and conditioning separately. When it's a speed day, keep the reps anywhere shorter, between 10 to 60 meters and maybe up to 150 meters depending on the time of season you're at. And also, you need to make sure you extend your rest, even if it feels weird at first, because the goal here is to be explosive on rep 5 just like you were on rep 1. For example, instead of doing 10 times 200 at once, you might do 4 times 60 meter all-out sprints with 4 to 6 minutes rest. Then take a longer break and do it the second set. If your coach mandates conditioning runs and to do them, but also understand they're doing this for endurance, not speed. As an athlete, you can also self-regulate. If you feel that yourself is slowing down significantly in a speed workout, it's okay to speak or adjust. And over time, when you train this way, you will actually get faster. Even your endurance will improve because each sprint teaches your body efficiency. So here's the payoff, or the promise I have for you guys. If you can stop blending your speed with conditioning, you will likely see immediate gains. And you will finish your workouts feeling fast, not just tired. You will have that extra gear because you've actually practiced running in it. And remember, the goal of speed training is to run fast as possible and not be as tired as possible. Train smart and you will stand out to your coaches with your fresher and faster performance. Big mistake number 2 is neglecting recovery, or as some people say, doing too much. This is the mistake, guys. If you believe in no days off, that mantra might sound hardcore, and you might be like my good friend David Goggins. But as a sprinter, it can be a recipe for disaster. But let me explain, because there is a time and place to have that mentality. The second big mistake is overtraining and poor recovery. This can show up as not resting enough between training days, not sleeping enough at night, or not fueling properly. So you can have the no days off mentality as long as you're taking care of those things I just mentioned. A lot of sprinters think that if they're not practicing, that they should be doing extra workouts, more hill runs, extra leg day, etc. Or coaches schedule tough practices every day of the week. This is the result. You're constantly in a state of fatigue and soreness, and that never goes away. Your times actually get slower, and you become an increased risk of injury. Now hear me out, because sprinting is extremely high intensity. Your body needs time to adapt. So if you pile stress on every single day, eventually you will burn out, or worst case scenario, break down. So why is this wrong? Think of training like sharpening a knife. The work is grinding, but you also have to cool the blade, or it loses its temper. In sprinting, cooling is recovery. Study shows that failing to allow your adequate recovery can actually decrease performance across the entire board. Now, sprint coaches and sprint scientists, we emphasize the nervous system needs 48 hours or more to rebound after max work. So if you hammer yourself daily, you never truly hit 100%. Again, because you're always at 80% of your true capacity. So running on tired legs. So overtraining can also tank your hormonal balance, which will ultimately lead to poor appetite, bad mood, and really high susceptibility to illness or injury. So here's the fix. You need to start embracing recovery as part of training. Schedule your week with high days and low days. For example, if Monday and Thursday are intense sprinting and lift days, make sure that Tuesday and Friday are your light technique or even rest days. And Wednesday could be a medium day. And at least one day a week, if not two, should be total rest. Or very light active recovery, such as a gentle bike ride, a long walk, or even a game of golf. I guess it depends on what type of golfer you are. Beyond scheduling, you need to focus on sleep. Aim for 8+ hours and naps if you need them. Also, focus on your nutrition. You need to get protein in every meal. Eating enough calories because food is fuel and building blocks for muscle repair. And here's also something, guys. Come here. You need to stay hydrated. So consider adding some recovery techniques, maybe foam rolling, stretching, or even contrast showers into your routine. Or maybe even seeing a physio for tight spots. And mentally give yourself permission to rest. It's not laziness, it's strategy. And here's a great quote I heard from one of my mentors. Normalize rest and it will pay dividends across the board. That's coming from someone who absolutely lived it at the highest level. When he started resting more, he got faster. So when you start prioritizing recovery, you will notice that you come to your speed sessions feeling energized and ready to explode rather than dragging. Injuries will drop and energy will rise. And instead of feeling slow or steady sluggish, your progression will leaps and steps because your body actually gets super compensation. Your coaches will start to see a consistently healthy, energetic athlete who can perform when it counts. Exactly what a scholarship program wants. Remember, training smart is not training to exhaustion. Rest is a competitive advantage. Mistake number 3, ignoring sprint mechanics and drill. Many young sprinters think that technique is just for distance runners. Or that their form will just fix itself by running more. Ignoring your sprint mechanics, things like your start technique, your running form, your arm swing, your knee drive, your foot contact can cap your big potential. And if you've never spent time doing drills or having a coach critically critique your form, you might be running with the emergency brake on. So imagine how hard that would be. So here are some of the common signs. 1, you're overstriding. Your feet is landing in front of you. You have low knee lift. Your heel striking. Or you got crazy side to side arm swings. These inefficiencies will slow you down and can even cause injuries in most cases. Now, I must admit it. As a teen, I used to skip those boring drills in the warm up. I was thinking, man, I had my energy drink, I had my C4, so I'm just gonna go out here and run fast. But without realizing it, I was reinforcing bad habits. As much as it is brute force, sprinting is also a skill. Look at elite sprinters. In any event, their form looks almost effortless. World class looks like world class. And that's not an accident. It's deliberate training, efficient mechanics. This is which means that you can translate more of your strength into speed instead of wasting energy. And one study in the Sports of Medicine journal noticed that no single form variable guarantees speed, but a combination of sound mechanics is needed for peak performance. If you've never practiced elements of your technique in isolation, it's hard to change them at full speed. Think of a car with the misaligned wheels. No matter how strong the engine is, aka your muscles, you will wobble and lose speed. Coaches like Tom Tellez, who ended up coaching Carl Lewis, put heavy emphasis on drills to ingrain proper technique. Skipping that is skipping a fundamental part of training. Incorporate technique work into your routine. Start with the basics. You need to ask a knowledgeable coach to watch your sprint and give feedback on maybe 1 or 2 things. For example, he might say drive your knees higher. If you're in my program, I will say strike the ground harder. Or you can keep your head down longer in the start. That's a cue that I wouldn't suggest, but those are the type of things you might end up hearing. Then you want to use drills like your A skips, your B skips, your high knees, your butt kicks, your karaoke, your straight leg browns. These are not just cliches. Done right, they can help target each aspect of your form. So pick 3 to 5 drills, do them for 20 meters each for 2 sets. And as part of every single one of your warm-up, make sure that you can maximize these drills. Then maybe do some strides. Relax sprints at about 80%, just focusing on your form a few times a week, if possible. Have somebody film them in practice to compare to previous practice sessions. If you want to take it up another notch, you can even compare the video analysis that you have to other elite sprinter videos. Another key is your starting technique. You can practice block starts or 3-point starts regularly if you are a 100 or 200 meter sprinter. Even the drive phase can be drilled. Example of this might be 20 meter pushing a sled or having a partner resistance to help you feel that 45-degree angle of the lean so that your legs can be moving in piston-like leg drive. Now, it might feel tedious, but through consistency, here yields the major results, because over weeks, these drills will translate. You'll notice that your running feels smoother, and you might eliminate that weird arm swing or foot drag that you had. So here's the promise. If you clean up your mechanics, you're essentially going to give yourself free speed. I've seen athletes improve times by just fixing their form. It's like turning a clunky stride into a sports car glide. I like that. But you will also impress your coaches with your professionalism. By focusing on your technique, it shows that you're serious about this sport. And importantly, better mechanics will help you reduce your injury, meaning that you can train more consistently. To put this simply, efficient sprinters are faster sprinters. So don't let sloppy form be the reason why you miss a PR or get a scholarship offer. Fix it now and reap the rewards on the stopwatch. Mistake number 4, skipping strength and power training. This one can go two ways. Either you're completely avoiding the weight room or doing the wrong kind of strength training for sprinters. Some athletes think I'll get bulky and slow if I lift, so they never actually develop strength. Others hit the gym and train like a bodybuilder or a football lineman, focusing on bench presses, bicep curls, and wondering why it's not helping their 100-meter time. So if you neglect sprint specific strength and power, this is a detrimental mistake. If you only rely on running, on the other hand, you're missing a key piece of the speed puzzle, because sprinting at high levels demands some strong glutes, some quad strength, and hamstrings, and a rock solid core. So without strength, you can't push off the blocks as hard as you possibly can, and you won't be able to sustain form at top speed. And conversely, doing lots of heavy upper body lifting without thought can add unnecessary bulk or fatigue. So speed is partially a product of the force that you can put into the ground. And researchers have ultimately proven this, that the fastest sprinters apply more force in shorter time than the others. It's that simple. So if you never work on strength, you limit the actual force your legs can produce. And on the other hand, sprint coaches and my own experience honestly shows that it's relative strength that ultimately matters. Strength per body weight. So gaining 20 pounds of pure muscle might increase your absolute strength, but it slows turnover and flexibility, and that can hurt. And there's a famous example according to stack.com. So ultimately there can be different approaches. Here's the principle. Keep strength work specific. Doing 3 sets of 12 bicep curls won't make you faster. And that time and recovery could be spent on power cleans or plyos that have real transfer. So here's the fix. You need to adopt sprinter specific strength routines. So if you've been avoiding weights, start light and just focus on your technique. And some of the key exercises you can just start on are your squats. I don't always suggest leg press, but you can do leg press deadlifts and hex bar deadlifts, or even lunges or step ups. Make sure you throw in some core exercises as well, your planks or your Russian twist. These can help target your prime movers and stabilizers for sprinting. And also keep the reps in the moderate range, 6 to 10 for beginners and sometimes 3 to 6 for more advanced, to build strength without excessive. You do this to help build strength without excessive hypertrophy. So if you're already lifting, you need to evaluate your program. Are you doing explosive lifts like power lifts or power cleans, hang snatches, or jump squats? And if you are not, you need to consider adding those in. Mixing that also with proper coaching on your form, because they can also help you improve your lifting mechanics, which is also going to help you to train your force more quickly. Now, to hit your posterior chain, you need to focus on your hamstrings and glutes. Exercises like your Romanian deadlifts or hip thrust are absolutely gold. Sprinters need to develop their backside power. And you need to incorporate plyometrics. These are things like box jumps, bounding, and other medicine ball throws. These will help convert your strength into the kind of explosive power that you can use when sprinting. And here goes one more thing to consider. Upper body isn't useless. You do need strong shoulders and arms to pump and a strong core to transmit force. But you need to prioritize your pull-ups, your rows, and your push-ups over your vanity muscles ultimately. A strong upper body can help maintain sprint posture, but you don't need bodybuilder arms and extra weight to carry it. So plan to have some strength sessions maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and usually on high intense days, so that you keep recovery days clean. And always want to maintain flexibility alongside those dynamic stretches, your foam rolls, so that your new muscles that you get stronger don't tighten up. So here's the promise, guys. With proper strength training, you will feel a noticeable difference in your explosiveness. Your first few steps will have more pop, and your top speed will ultimately increase as your leg turnovers into pistons, and your top speed will increase. Now, weights done right won't slow you. They will ultimately empower you. So you might go from feeling like you're fighting the ground to attacking the ground. And college coaches will start recruiting you because they will test things like your power and strength. Imagine their impression when you show up to a camp, not just fast, but powerfully built as a sprinter. And it shows that you've prepared like an elite. So ultimately, combining the strength with the previous pillars is ultimately synergistic. Together, they will vault your performance to new levels. And that leads into mistake number 5, a lack of balance, the pillars of speed plan. The final mistake is not having a plan or system, essentially being one-dimensional or just haphazard in your training. And many athletes just do whatever the coaches says at practice without even understanding why. And they do little else on their own to address other aspects of their sprinting. Or even worse, or they focus on one thing and say that they love doing extra endurance runs, but never actually work on speed or vice versa. So this lack of a comprehensive approach means that you're having glaring weaknesses, right? And it's like trying to sit on a stool with one leg. You're going to ultimately fall over. You know, for instance, let's think about this. Maybe you run a lot of sprints, which is good, but you never lift, which is bad. Or you lift a ton, which is good, but you never practice block starts, which is bad. Or you train great all week, but then party all weekend and lose sleep. And I don't want to call anybody out, but we've all seen that teammate. So without a balanced program covering all of the pillars from speed, endurance, strength, recovery, mindset, movement mastery, skill development, you're going to hit a ceiling. And sprinting performance is ultimately multifaceted. I mean, look at any elite sprinter's routine. By the time of this video is up, you should be able to see my morning routine as a sprinter. It's a mix of track work, gym work, drills, and rest. And if you miss one part, it drags down the others. So suppose you neglect speed endurance. You might have a great 50 meters, but then tie up at 80 in a race, which is a horrible time to have that happen in a 100-meter race and ultimately lose. Or you can be neglecting your technique. You might be as strong as a bull, but waste energy with each actual step. Now, we've discussed about each pillars separately, and by now you see that they also interconnect. And elite coaches want to develop holistic systems. This is like the training system of maybe Coach John Smith or Clyde Hart, etc. These pioneers are trying to build holistic systems because piecemeal training doesn't yield elite results. So here's the fix, guys. This is the path that you need to take. You need to adopt a complete training system, a pillars of speed approach. So what this ultimately means is that you're ensuring that your weekly schedule hits all of the critical components. Here's a simple blueprint. Speed days can be your short sprints, acceleration, or max velocity focus. You know, maybe plus throw in some plyos. Your endurance days. These are your longer sprints or intensive tempo runs to help build overall capacity and possibly speed endurance. Then you need your strength days. These are things like weight training, right? This could be done the same as speed days or separate. Best case scenario, pair it with your speed days. You need to have technique work, drills every warm-up, plus you need to dedicate time for specific block practice. Then you need your recovery. You need your easy days with maybe mobility or complete rest. A complete plan is your insurance policy against ultimate stagnation. Imagine a season where you drop time every single meet, where you feel more confident every single time you step on the track because you know you have the correct systems and pillars in place for speed. You can start implementing these pillars for free by clicking the link in the description. I will see you guys in the next video.